Guys, welcome back to another cook on the channel. Today is the first of our Christmas cooks and we're talking about the turkey, which is one of the main sort of showpieces of the Christmas dinner. We're doing it in a way I've never done on the channel before. It's been done on the Weber Rotisserie using the 57cm kettle. I have cooked it this way before in the past. It's such a simple way to cook turkey, but I've never done it on the channel, so I thought this is the year, have to get it done. So the barbecue's coming up to temperature. We'll go over that in a minute, but first of all I want to look at the turkey and what we need to do to get it prepped for it. Okay, so this is our beautiful bird from Buchanan's Turkeys in Northern Ireland here. They're down in Kilray. I'll leave all their links below, you can check them out. But these guys do turkeys the traditional way. So they're old turkeys. They're hatched in end of May, start of June time, which makes them the oldest turkeys whenever it comes time to process them. So they've built up that fat under the skin. They're free range turkeys. This is a free range white. They also do free range true bronze turkeys as well. They're all processed on the farm to avoid as much stress for the turkeys as possible. They're dry plucked and then they're hung in a cold store the old traditional way. So some of the methods they use are from around 100 years ago. So this is the way it used to be done, and this produces the best quality bird, and the best quality bird produces the best flavour. So we're starting with this. This is roughly a 7.5 kilo bird. The Weber Rotisserie I think can handle anything up to 11 kilos, so this should be fine on it. This will feed quite a few people. If you're doing just for a few people, you might want to do it a little bit smaller. If you're only feeding a few of you, you can do something a little bit smaller, maybe something around a 5 kilo bird, but this 7.5 kilo, nice big breasts on it. The leg meat looks awesome already. So what do we need to do to get it ready? First of all, I'm going to stick on a couple of gloves, because we need to start getting under the skin. Now the thing is with a bird like this, all that effort has gone into preparing it and raising it the right way so that it has great flavour in the meat already. So we don't want to do anything that's going to be too crazy to overpower it. So we're going to go quite simple today with a herb butter under the skin, just over the breast. We're not going to touch the legs, they can be as they are. And we'll do a little bit of seasoning on the outside, but again, we are using the Texas steak rub from Angus Oink. Now, I know this is not a steak, however, the ingredients in this, there's different types of pepper in it, there's salt in it, and there's garlic in it, and a few herbs. That is all going to complement what we've already got going into this bird, and none of them are that overpowering either. Put my glove on the right way, it might help. So, roll up the sleeves. We're going to go in at the neck cavity here and just try and tease our finger underneath the breast. So we're just going to try and create a bit of a pocket to allow us to get that butter pressed down inside. Do your best not to rip the skin, but it's not the end of the world if you do. But if you take your time, it should tease away nice and easy. So that's two good sized pockets opened up over both breasts. That's going to let us get the herbs in there in the butter. A little bit of fat is going to help keep it nice and moist inside whenever we're cooking. Plenty of fat in these boys here that we don't need to do anything else with them. I will leave the flap of skin on the neck cavity here. Whenever we fold that down and push the spit through it, that will hold it in place and it kind of stops it pulling back off the breast. So let's talk about the butter. I will discard of my gloves. Set this boy off to the side. So here we have about 125 grams of butter, unsalted butter, just room temperature, so it's nice and soft. I can mix the herbs through it. Speaking of herbs, we have sage, thyme and parsley. So this is sort of a small handful of each. Sage leaves we're just going to mince up. They're nice and fine. We'll mix through the butter a little bit easier. Parsley leaves, just the same. Run your knife through them a few times just to chop them down a little bit. Looks good. Brush them in the same. And then for the thyme, we're just going to go ahead and pick the leaves. Don't really need to mince this because they're so small already. Alright, so when all said and done, that's probably a tablespoon and a half-ish of thyme leaves. So go ahead, add those into the butter. And put a glove on for this, make a mess. You can just go in with your hand and press that all into the butter to get it mixed through. Right, if we bring our bird back over then, I'm going to work to try and get this back underneath the skin. So we've already created our pockets. Just going to take a chunk of that, put my hand in there, try and force it down in as far as I can. Once it's in there, then you can sort of massage it around the breast to get it down into all the wee nooks and crannies that are in there. In the other side, and just go in here with the last bit. So some of this will ultimately run out whenever you're cooking it, but it's not a problem as long as you catch it in the bottom. With your drip pan, it'll be fine, doesn't make a mess of your barbecue, but that's exactly what we want, is for it to melt down over that breast just to give us a little bit of flavour and keep it nice and moist. Say any kind of fat down there is really going to help. Then we're going to talk about the outside. So we are going to tie this up, but I'm going to season it a bit first and then we'll tie it up. So just add the smallest drizzle of oil over it. This has been sitting out to sort of dry off the skin a little bit. So any rub we put on there is just going to fall off, but we want it to stay on for as long as possible while it's spinning. We'll open up our bottle, we'll rub that oil all over. So we'll have a little bit of the butter on there, but then we will start seasoning it up. That's enough on there for now. We can go ahead and get it trussed up then. So normal butcher string. And it's fallen. So we'll take ourselves a good amount, nothing worse than getting towards the end not having enough. So if we find the middle section of the string, just loop that around both our legs. Find the middle section of the string and loop that around both our legs. Pull those together. Pull them tight. And from here we'll go back in between the legs, down over the breast, flip it over, make sure the skin flap is pulled down across, and then where the wings are, we take the string, twist, and that's going to hold them in place. Flip it back over, bring it up again to meet in the middle. Just tie that off. So that's it, held together pretty nicely. Shouldn't go anywhere whenever it's on our rotisserie. Again, the wings are tucked in quite nicely there. These little tips will probably burn, but there's nothing on them anyway that we actually need. So now we're at the point of getting it onto the spit. So we have our Weber spit here. I'm going to go in from the cavity end. Once I go in from the cavity end, I'm going to aim slightly upwards and you sort of find that breastbone. If you run along that, then you will punch out through the neck. And then you have your two marks where it's going to sit on the actual rotisserie itself. You want to put the bird in between those, then you can go on with your forks to hold it in place. So the one at the back, I'm going to get it just underneath the legs and then tighten it up. I haven't cinched that all the way in, so if I come from this side and then just push the entire thing in, that catches the legs and the points go into the breast there to hold it steady. And then once we get to this side, similar story on, make sure it's sitting as centered as possible on the spit. Tighten your pin down as much as you can and then push it right into the breast. Push both of them together, and it only takes another sort of quarter turn to hold that one in place. And that's us ready to go on. We're pretty well in the center. It will be a little top heavy on the breast. Obviously this is a huge chunk of meat. Down here is not a lot going on, so it will roll about a bit. But that's it, ready to go on. So we'll move over and I'll show you how I've got the barbecue set up. Alright, so you can see the barbecue set up here. I've roughly just under a full chimney's worth of briquettes lit. I've dumped them into each charcoal basket, leaving our indirect area in the centre. I'm going to throw a tray down in there just to catch any fats or any of that butter that runs out. It's going to drip into the tray. I don't want that making a mess at the bottom of the barbecue. So that's us pretty much ready to go on. Lift our bird into place. Just work the end in to the motor. And we flick on the motor, start it spinning. So once we're at this stage, we have the temperature set to around 200 degrees. You may need to shut your vents down a little bit to stop the temperature running away with it, because the rotisserie seems to let in a little bit more air. So even with the vents shut down a little bit, there's still air getting in there, so you need to compensate for that. So we'll put the lid on and we'll let it spin. We'll come back and check on it in a couple of hours time just to see what the internal temperature is on the breast. Our turkey's been spinning for about 2.5 hours, maybe just over it. We've reached an internal temperature of around 73 in the breast, and the legs are probing around 88, 89ish. Smaller birds usually you can get them done around 2 hours, but again you just have to go by temperature. You can't do this on time. So we're going to lift it off now and let it rest for a little while, at least 20-30 minutes or so. Around the 2 hour mark, I noticed the temperature starting to fall off a little bit in the barbecue. Like I say, there's a lot of air in that chamber and it can fire up the coals quite a lot, so it can be hard. They'll burn through a little bit faster, so add a little bit of lump wood in there just to bring it back up to temperature and see through to the end of the cook. So I will put on my gloves and we'll get it lifted off, let it rest for a little while, then it's time to carve. Skinning those legs, super crispy. Up top's bubbling away. You can still see the herbs and stuff underneath it that we put in there. But we're not going to carve in yet. It's still sizzling, so I'm going to put a couple of sheets foil just loosely down over the top. Just to protect it a little bit while it's resting. Then we're going to come back, take a few slices off that breast, see what it's like. Okay, after resting we have severely lost the light. But our turkey is done. We've carved it up, it's rested. It's still nice and moist inside. I'd say the slices came off really well. You can still see all those herbs and stuff that are just underneath the skin. That butter's all melted down in. Top skin's nice. The fat has rendered out. It's not necessarily crispy, but you can tell it's sort of thinned down. But there's only one thing to do, and that is give it a taste. Once people have tried turkey cooked on the barbecue, they usually come around to it. Anyone who doesn't really like turkey, my wife was never a fan of turkey until we tried one that was done properly on the barbecue, cooked to temperature, not time. So I'll leave a link in the description for the rough method of what we've done here if you want to try it in the rotisserie. Keep an eye out, I have another one coming up where we're going to do a spatchcock turkey, which is a sort of different cook altogether. But if you want to give this one a go, click that link in the description. Remember, if you want to get yourself one of these turkeys, you can go and check out Buchanan turkeys on the link in the description as well. They do super quality turkeys, and definitely if you want to get your name down for one, go down, get it quick. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.